Folks, today will be our last guide we make for Zenless Zone Zero Season 2. And as bittersweet as that sounds, we couldn't have ended a whole year of Zenless with a better character. Today, let's bring to you the symbol of peace, bringer of justice. It's Starlight Billy. Let's rev it up by showing you how to master his kits, his best builds, teams, and why this Rupture unit might just be the best pull of all time. Build-WEngine! Driver on please! Starlight Knight, go! Why are you looking at me? Just start the guide already. In today's kit and combo breakdown, we're going to be showing you how to perform this. Yeah, before we get to Billy's high-flying antics, let's talk about his stacking mechanic that's represented with his gauge below his HP bar called Determination. You can stack up Determination by using the abilities of his kit that will fill up his gauge to 100 with a total cap of 120, which at that point he's able to launch his charge basic attack, which we'll get to in a bit. But to start off here, just know that most, if not all of his abilities will contribute Determination for you to build up his stacks as well as slowly fill up the gauge just around 1 point per second passed. Starlight Billy's first part of his kit will actually not revolve around the cool gauge you see next to his bar, but his regular special ability called Drive Suppression. Sorry, to start off the guide, I feel like I've been blue ballsing you guys quite a bit. But anyways, when you think of regular specials, they don't really mean much to other characters. Well, not for Billy, because this tap special will allow you to consume HP in order to hop on his cool motorcycle and will lead Billy to launching a majority of his combos. Then let's get to his first attack on his new whip, and that's just tapping the special itself. It will allow you to drive straight into the jaws of danger and leap towards them. After flying into the enemy, you'll perform the finisher portion of the attack, the EX special called Cool Wheelie. And this attack actually does not cost adrenaline. For those who forget, adrenaline is the specific energy for Rupture units. So, with a tap special and EX special, you can activate a few of your own buffs and even other drive and W-Engine abilities right off the bat. It's actually super convenient. As well, finishing Cool Wheelie will gain you 8 extra Determination on top. The Drive Suppression also has a cool mechanic that you can activate it to actually parry attacks like so. With this, you can regain 5 extra Determination and automatically transfer into the Cool Wheelie attack. Yeah, and after launching Cool Wheelie, if you do have enough energy, you can follow it up with an actual energy-filled EX special attack called Rocking Footwork. This ability is one of his strongest scaling attacks, even stronger than his chain attack, and will summon his large hand cannon to blast the evildoers off the battlefield. After which he can restore 15% of his max HP. Yet, don't worry folks, if you do not have enough energy, just press the basic attack button, and through a various amount of text that you don't have to read, he can launch his dodge counter attack called Dual King, by which it can be then followed up with the 4th hit of his basic attack string. This will definitely be utilized when you transition out of stun and your enemies are back on their feet, ready to aggress while you're coming off the back of expending your resources. And just to talk about a second case of EX special, if you do not particularly follow this combo, you can actually launch a more quick version called the High Traction Wheel by holding down the special with no extra prompt. This attack will cost 16 adrenaline and restore a whopping 30% of your max HP, but with slightly less damage output. Still strong, and if your opponents have no proclivity to attack, this will be the option you use if you're expending energy for your attacks. In general, it's just more economical and more power if you guys follow the combo line that was the special to parry that leads you to your EX special combo, what we will dub the Scorched by Starlight combo. Then after the main combo, let's talk about his basic attacks. I know it's a bit weird to talk about them after, but you'll see why in a second. Billy does have a 4-hit combo attack for his regular basics that ends with him performing a sick backflip into a blaster attack. And when you actually perform this, you can follow up with the tap special, Drive Suppression, which actually has its HP consumption reduced by 50%, which is pretty neat. And during his auto attacks, he can actually restore a small amount of HP with contact. So if you have equipment that requires HP manipulation, this will be key to unlocking the potential of those passives. And you can't forget about these style points where he pulls out the Michael Jackson at the end. Priceless. And now let's get to the big attack, the Hack and Slash, Starlight Knight Billy's signature Full Throttle Starlight. Remember how we said we'll wait until after building up all of our attacks? Well, this is what we've been waiting for. As with 100 determination in your gauge, you can hold down the basic to launch this flashy, devastating combo. This attack just does shy of 21 100% in damage multipliers. His second strongest attack under the ultimate. The daze multipliers are disgusting too, yet make sure to utilize this attack during the stun window, as you want to make sure to maximize its damage potential alongside your other heavy hitting attacks. But before we go through those heavy hitting attacks, let's go through the dodges, as Billy does have some relevant skills under it. In particular, it's his ability called Through the Galaxy. This can be activated whilst on his bike in drive suppression stance. You can actually drift on the motorbike and perfect dodge attacks. If you do, you can immediately follow up with this dodge counter after fire spin, or let it flow into cool wheelie, whereby you know the combo line from there. If the skill ends early, you'll just end up going through the regular dodge counter attack, which would lead to his dual king dodge counter attack, the basic fall from his drive suppression attack that we mentioned earlier. And now with his small combos out of the way, let's get to said heavy hitting attacks, and the Starlight Knight spares no expense by adding explosions to his attacks. I wonder where he got that inspiration from. Let's firstly go through his chain attack, the Knight's Swagger, that will launch a series of attacks and restore 15 determination. Even with only a 1300% damage multiplier, which is shy of his EX special combos, it's important that you use these, as if you do a manual cancel, you can launch 2 of his chains, leading to 30 determination built up. Very important, as we'll talk about his gauge economy in just a bit. Then let's get to the big kahuna, the Rider Kick, the Starlight Knight Flying Kick Ultimate Attack, or what Billy would call for himself,
earned the honor of being scorched by starlight! Dimension Burst! Star Crash! Starlight Knight Transform!
This ultimate attack is lethal and launches a mega flying kick at the enemy and ends with Billy striking his signature pose. This attack is truly an ode to over 50 years of cinematic history, and with its strong damage, you'll want to save this attack for when the time is right. But let's move straight to showing you Billy's combos and general playstyle. First one ability that we didn't mention before was his additional core ability, which grants him a stack of Starlight if he has a stunner, defense, or support on the team. Once he uses any of his mainline attacks, he can gain 20% damage bonus for all of them, with a total of 2 stacks leading up to 40%. So starting off the battle with a basic 4 and special drive suppression into Cool Wheelie will automatically grant you the max stacks and get you started on building other stacks for, let's say, Yunkoi Summit Drive Disc, which we'll also mention in the build portion next. After the setup, we can time our Scorch by Starlight combo, which is, again, the regular special parry into EX special combo during your out of stun time. Then the goal is also to build up the gauge while at least having 1 EX special at the ready for your stun. Then as we launch into the stun, let's lead with the basic full throttle Starlight into a shoulder to shoulder setup with your other supporting cast. Chain, then with manual cancel EX special into another shoulder to shoulder. Chain again with Billy, then launch the ultimate. Then with time to spare, you should have one more basic full throttle to send out, or if you potentially have dial in, you can instead focus on utilizing the ultimate a second time. In my testing, it is not impossible to fit in your second full throttle and a second ultimate all in one stun window, so prioritize the ultimate and then finish with the basic full throttle as you'll want to maximize damage. And with a 500% days multiplier on the basic hold, you'll still be contributing quite a bit into the stun window, which is still a big plus. In recap of our showcase here, it's important that we pay attention to how much we're contributing to Billy's gauge and setting up for our stun windows like any other standard rupture or attack unit should. But now it's time we look under the hood of our new upgrades and take a look at how we're going to kit out the Starlight Knight. Now, this segment is actually going to be the shortest build portion of all time. We literally can take the same builds of our other rupture units and just move it over here. But there are a few modifications this intelligent construct needs to consider for the build, so let's start with his stat thresholds. First, if we were to have his signature and the proper 4 set for him, spoilers, it's Youngoi Tails. Then, with the SIG providing 20 crit rate and the drive 12, we would need 68% initial crit rate from the build. But considering that his passive, which we've barely talked about, grants Billy 90% crit damage at top core F, I'm more than willing to give him a crit rate 2 set to make the build a bit easier to manage. This leaving us with a bit more of a cushion when building him. Then the priority stats for him will be the crit damage and HP percentage after that. So how will we be able to supplement our common rider with all of these? Well, let's begin with the W engines, specifically his signature, which is aptly named the Starlight Rider faceplate. This SIG grants 713 base attack, 30% HP in the advanced stat, and 20% crit rate right off the bat from the passive. Super convenient. Then we get to the second part of the passive, which, when the user launches a special attack, their physical shear force gains by 10%, stacking up to 2 times for 30 seconds, this leading us to a 20% elemental shear bonus. Yet compared to other alternative signatures, the difference is but just that of the elemental bonus, which is similar to, say, Banya's Raffle Vahra or Yishen's Qingming Birdcage. Thus, if you do have these signatures or those characters, consider just borrowing them when you bring out Billy, as if you have one of them, most if not all the rupture units can utilize them. Then let's just reference some of the budget options, and one clearly that stands out is the Cauldron of Clarity for its strong HP, damage bonus, and crit rate bonuses. This limited time event W engine was such a blessing for rupture units, and Billy can definitely make use of it. Others like the Radio Wave Journey, which is the Battle Pass engine, or even Monoto signature, the Marcato's Desire, are also quite desirable for budget players. The difference in the SIG and the alt SIGs is minimal, yet there is a slight gap between them and the budgets and F2Ps, so again, if you do have an alt SIG from one of those 2 other rupture units, might as well use them. And next are the drive discs. And because Zenless has given us very little choices in terms of variety of rupture-based drives, maybe this might change in the future of 3.0, but for now, our best 4-set drive has to be the Youngoi Tails. It's just so reliable, and with strong bonuses to crit rate and sheer damage bonus increases, it's the perfect set for what rupture scales with. Then, as mentioned at the beginning of the build guide portion, the generalist will go 2-piece Woodpecker, which is the crit rate 2-set bonus, followed by physical damage bonus or crit damage if you just so happen to roll some god tier crit rate substats. Thereafter, we head over to the main stats of your build, and wouldn't you guess, it's HP in the 6th slot, physical followed by HP in the 5th slot, then crit rate in the 4th slot. And just as a note, you can actually go crit damage in the 4th slot if you have well above 30 to 35 substat rolls for your character. The only other way to get out of crit rate in slot 4 is if you have multiple copies of the W engine, as the crit rate scales with the overclock. And I know that's a super whale talk here, but I'm just illustrating how important that crit rate is for Billy. Lastly, I rarely mention skill priorities on characters, as usually it's just an instance of leveling all of them if you can. But just in case, let's make sure to focus on ult, followed by specials and basic for your general attacks, then dodge, then assist. Both should be having at least 6 to 8 levels on them. And if you'd like to reference all of this information in a one-stop shop guide, you've probably seen these around the internet. These are my infographic guides that I make for all the new ZZ units. I'll also be refurbishing every single character's infographic guides leading up to 3.0, so stay tapped in on Twitter, Discord, and YouTube. And if this video gets, say, 1,000 likes, we'll host an In-N-Out Pass giveaway for you guys to help prep yourselves for 3.0, or maybe give you guys some extra polychromes for Silly. And all you need to do is just be subscribed and join the movement, and comment down below if you guys are going to be pulling. And now to the next big portion of the video. Y'all must be looking for partners to pair with the Starlight Knight, and although he seems like he's a one-man show, he can't reach his full potential alone. Let's go over some of his favorite teammates and some budget options for y'all to assist the silly shenanigans. The first team on the list has to be the best in-slot core of Dylan and Jshoea, who as of 2.4 have been the fries and ketchup sides to the burger of Rupture. Yum. Jshoea is currently the best sheer force support for every single Rupture unit, and that definitely is going to change in Season 3, right? Opium. But with such strong buffs, Ether Veil and convenient uptime, she is by far the best support for Rupture. Then, Dylan needs no introduction. If you guys have caught my top 5 units of Season 2 video, you know how awesome Dylan is, with her ability to stun as well as buff and generate an extra ult for a second rider kick during your stun windows. That just is insane amount of potential team damage right there. And overall, just the presence of Dylan and Jshoea for any Rupture squad is amazing. But what if you don't have Dylan by chance? Well, let me actually reference one of the weakest characters of all of Season 2, Jshoea. Now, if you guys are coming from that video, apologies. I've seen a bunch of the backlash from that video referencing the worst units of Season 2, but it's not unwarranted, yet don't mistake her being the least value for having no value, as Jshoea is quite the strong stunner in her own right, and grants even more crit damage bonuses than Billy could know what to do with. Her flexible playstyle and ability to grant 1000 extra decibels in the bank to make preparing ults much easier makes Jshoea a great alternative stunner right behind Dylan. Yet don't forget, we even still have Nongong, who can fit that role as well. And even if we don't have an anomaly on the team, it doesn't stop Nongong from whacking the hell out of ethereals. Yes, she may lose out on a ton of additional bonuses, but if you're in need of a stunner, the girl can get it done. And as for alt options for Jshoea, the only realistic option is Astra Yao. Yet, if you are using Nongong, then Suna might just be an okay fit for the team. Although, if I had it my way, I wouldn't be using the Angel's Core for Billy over just another anomaly DPS, but it's an option for y'all. Lastly, the budget options, and there are only a handful here, folks, that being Pulchra and Panyin. These two A ranks have been stellar. For Pulchra, it's her flexible passive restrictions allowing her to work with the likes of attackers and ruptures and even various anomalies. Then with Panyin, he is the only rupture budget sheer force buffer. So we're basically just stuck with him. Yet, even against the HP inflation of many bosses, the silly, Pulchra, and Panyin teams can clearly clear 20k DA, yet might struggle a bit in Jshoea. With not too many supporting cast options, as most ruptures have been relegated to being solo riders, versus the attacker class who have seen many go double attack comps in the modern day, it's to be seen how ZZ will expand upon the Rupture cast, whether it's with more stunners, maybe a Caesar rework to include sheer force buffs with her shield, or maybe a Jshoea 2.0. So make sure to hit that subscribe button, as we'll be covering every single unit in Season 3 and more. But now it's time to put on the suit, folks. Stop investing into Micron, Nvidia, and SanDisk. It's time to look at the investments of Starlight Billy with his Mindscapes to see if vertical investing is worth it for your accounts and gaming experience. Let's begin with Billy's M1, the heroic entrance. This Mindscape grants a free 60 adrenaline upon entering battle, allowing you for an extra Scorched by Starlight EX special combo like we talked about earlier, allowing you to stack up determination much faster. Then hitting enemies with EX specials allow him to ignore 18% physical res for 45 seconds with any of his attacks, which is incredibly easy to proc and just overall a great damage bonus for the silly. M2 is a DPS upgrade with 50% damage bonus to EX, Cool Wheel, Basic Full Throttle, and Ult. Then activating the follow-up EX special from his drive suppression combos grants a new effect called the Turbocharge, which increases the damage effect of the following Cool Wheelie with 50% crit damage. Not too bad at all. M3 and M5 are our classical skill increases, followed by his M4. That with each of his drive suppressions can give you a stack of 8% crit damage, stacking up to 2 times for 45 seconds each. If HP falls below 35%, when he's off-field, he'll continuously recover HP up to 35%, so a very small buff with a sustain factor. Lastly, the M6, dubbed the Starlight Knight, will increase sheer force damage for his relevant abilities by 18%, and landing the 4th basic, EX Special Cool Wheel, or Chain grants another stacking mechanic of Brilliant Starlight up to 6 stacks total. When using an ultimate or basic full throttle, you will consume 2 points to deal 100% of sheer force as additional physical damage, which compiled with the M1 and M2 means for much larger damage with those heavy hitting abilities. Now, personally, I would have loved to have seen a quality of life Mindscape that makes it easier to stack up determination or something to that effect. Regardless, even at M0, Billy is quite effective, and Mindscapes don't change the geometry of how he functions or how he's built. So personally, if you don't care for more damage or the Mindscape cards, the vertical investments are a skip. And as mentioned before, if you do manage to already have a Jshoea or Build-WEngine Sig, might as well borrow them as they give the same substats outside the additional physical sheer force bonus, and you'll just save yourself $100 for Valina, Ramiel, or if you're a male lover, Severian. And with that, folks, we'll conclude the last guide of ZZZ Season 2. Personally, I need to thank y'all for how much support you've been showing me the past year. I wouldn't be in the position I am in now if it weren't for you guys. So thank you so much. And sometimes as a creator, you want to look forward, but you got to smell the flowers sometimes. And at the end of a whole season of Zenlessing, I need to thank you guys for all of your support. And if you guys did like the new look to our guides, we are going to be adding in some more animations, new cards and stuff into our guides moving forward. So again, let me know down in the comments if you guys are liking the new style. If you'd like to catch us pulling for Billy, we will be live at the drop of his banners, so make sure to catch us over on our Twitch and YouTube live streams. My name is Josh, and thank you so much for watching. Hey, check out one of these videos because YouTube thinks you'll like it. We'll see you in the next one.